To those not familiar with this way, I would like to speak plainly, because comfort without truth has never healed a human heart. An almost frightening fact is this. As human beings, taking ourselves to be persons moving along a little line between birth and death, we are not under the government of God. Please let us be clear about that. We are under the government of fear. Fear of loss, fear of disease, fear of age, and above all, fear of death. And by death, I do not mean merely the closing of the eyes. I mean that darker whisper that says, you, your name, your story, your precious collection of moments can be erased. The threat of annihilation, of being ended, is the secret tyrant of human life. We insure against it with plans. We bargain with it by careful living. We distract ourselves from it with noise. But at 2 a.m, even the strong feel that tide rise, because death threatens a person in time, and most of us, most of the time, accept ourselves as precisely that. A person with a past and a future trying to keep himself together a little longer. As long as that is our identity, fear is not an intruder. Fear is the atmosphere. Now, let us be exact about our subject. Death can threaten a body, a biography, a reputation, a role. It can lay claim to a calendar and to a nameplate on a door. It can alter what other people say about us and what the newspapers print. But it cannot threaten I am. It cannot lay a finger upon that which is before birth and after death, that which is now, timeless being, the awareness by which the body and its history are known. Please let us be clear about that. The fear of death persists only while I take myself to be a person in time. In proportion as I release that mistaken identification, in that proportion does fear loosen its hold. In proportion as I abide as I am, in that proportion does death lose its voice. This is not a comforting theory. Reading about immortality is far from experiencing life. Hearing beautiful words about eternity is far from being still and discovering that what you are is not born and does not die. All power is in the Word, and the Word is within you. Not in your sayings about truth, not in your arguments for heaven, but in the impartation that rises silently when you turn within and yield this personal sense that trembles before an end. Our work together is not the polishing of beliefs. It is not the accumulation of spiritual facts. It is the surrender of the person and the discovery of the one who cannot be surrendered. And this will not merely console you about a later moment. It will change the manner of your living now, how you love without clinging, how you decide without panic, how you work without bondage to clocks. If you will stay with me in this inquiry, we will come to see that the government of fear is not our destiny. There is another government, another identity, and it is as near as your own breath, as near as I am. Let us set before us, side by side, the two identities and the two governments. By humanhood I mean this: a self built out of body condition and biography, of achievements and failures, of relationships and reputations, of bank accounts and medical charts, of what others think of us and what we hope they will think tomorrow. Humanhood is the bundle of memories behind us and projections ahead, the calendar that tells us who we are because of dates and deadlines. It is the anxious curator of a museum called me, and it must guard exhibits that rust and fade. This is the self that is born on a day and expects to end on a day. Please let us be clear about that. Humanhood is under time. It is under heredity, under chance, under the pressure of cause and effect as it appears to the senses. And because it is under these, it must be under fear. Opposite, not as an enemy, but as reality to dream, is spiritual identity. By this, I do not mean a doctrine about God or a noble sentiment. I mean being itself. I mean awareness before the name, before the role, before the face in the mirror. The kingdom of God is within you. Within means within your own being, closer than breathing, nearer than hands and feet. It does not mean inside the skull, as if spirit were a tenant in a house of clay. It means the very life by which the skull is known, the light by which mind and thought appear. This is I am, timeless being. It is not a better person. It is not a polished ego crowned with scripture. It is the one that knows the person, as you might watch a cloud pass across the sky without ever being the cloud. Here is the binary, and it must be faced. Humanhood lives by the tick of a clock, birth to death. Spiritual being is not in time. Rather, time appears within it, as a moving picture appears on a screen that is not moved. In proportion as we accept and defend ourselves as the time self, in that proportion, the government of fear tightens. In proportion as we touch, even faintly, the I of us that is before the tick and after the talk, in that proportion fear dissolves, not by argument, but by absence of a subject to be threatened. All our work rests on this law of proportion. What then is asked of us? Not the surrender of life. Life cannot be surrendered. What must be surrendered is the belief that life is personal, located in a private parcel called me, needing extensions and protections and applause. Our aim is not to improve the person so it may die more comfortably. Our aim is to see through the false premise that I am that person, and to abide as that which witnesses the person come and go. I can of my own self do nothing is not defeat. It is release into the government of the Father within, who doeth the works. Under human government, we are ruled by calendars, clinics, markets, and opinions. Under the government of spirit, effects arrange themselves to the inner cause. And, in proportion as we abide, the outer scene bears witness. Peace without panic. Action without strain. If you can glimpse this distinction, even as a thread, hold it gently. Do not try to stretch the thread into a rope by effort. Let it be what it is, an opening. Not to make you safer as a person, but to reveal that safety is the nature of being. And then, step by step, we will learn not to carry beliefs into the night, but to let the word within govern the night itself. Now let us face another fact, and it is a kindly fact if we will take it in that spirit. Information about truth does not still the night wind. At 2 a.m, when the body trembles, or the phone rings with news no one wanted, the statements we have collected, I believe in heaven, I know there is something beyond, often collapse like paper walls. Please let us be clear about that. Hearing about God and reading about God can inspire us, can set our feet pointed in a direction, but it leaves us halfway to heaven. It does not carry us across the threshold when fear breathes on the back of the neck. Why? Because fear is not healed by concepts. Fear is unseated by realization. We have mistaken the map for the country. We have thought that if we could gather enough statements, quote enough verses, arrange enough beautiful thoughts about immortality, we would be safe. But notice how this often works in practice. We use the statements, good statements, sacred statements, as a shield to protect the person we have just been asked to surrender. We take, I am eternal life, and paste it on a frightened self in time, hoping the paste will hold. In proportion as we try to protect the person by spiritual sayings, in that proportion, we fasten the person more tightly as our identity. And the government of fear, quietly, efficiently, tightens its rule. Please hear this gently. The word that saves is not the word that goes out from our mouth. It is the word of God that comes to us within us. All power is in the word, and the word is within you. Not your right thinking, that is not salvation. Not your brave affirmations, not your denials, not your arguments with sensation. The power is in that inward impartation by which truth ceases to be a sentence and becomes a living presence. When the word is given within, authority is felt, and the body's trembling loses its dictator. I can of my own self do nothing is not a weak confession in that hour. It is the door through which the Father within doeth the works. You may have noticed this difference. One night you recited every comfort you knew, and nothing yielded. Another time, perhaps with no effort at all, a single line, a psalm, a whisper of "I am," rose of itself, not from memory, but from the depth of you, and there was quiet. The outer words had not changed, the source of the word had. That is impartation. That is the word within. It does not argue. It does not persuade. It establishes. So if we are to see fear dissolve at its root, we must cease trying to prop up the person with spiritual lumber and ask instead for the living word to be born in us. We must discover, first, where fear actually lives, and, second, where it cannot live. The ancients called that refuge the secret place of the Most High. Dwelleth means to live. Our next work is to find within our own being that place of dwelling, awareness itself, into which fear does not enter. Let us locate fear precisely, because vagueness lets it keep its mask. Fear is not in your hands, or in your rooms, or in the night outside your windows. Fear is a movement in thought. It is memory and imagination conspiring to draw pictures of a future in which I, the person, may not be. Please let us be clear about that. Fear borrows the body's sensations, but it is born of the personal self's story. My time, my plans, my breath, my continuation. When thought says, "What if I am not?" and then paints it on the screen of the mind, the body answers with chemistry, and we call that fear. But the cause is not chemical. The cause is identification, the taking of oneself to be this person with a past to protect and a tomorrow to secure. Into that very scene comes a word that is not concept, but key. In the 91st Psalm it is written, "He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty." Dwelleth means to live there. Not to visit on Sundays, not to touch it when the nerves fray, but to make it one's address. The secret place is not a mood. It is not an exalted feeling, nor is it a trance. It is a dimension of awareness, closer than breathing, nearer than hands and feet. The stillness behind the thoughts, the light by which thoughts are seen. It is the eye that knows the mind come and go, as the sky knows the passing of clouds without once becoming cloud. Here is the paradox that history proves 1,000 times. We try to escape death by securing effects. Health regimes, money carefully arranged, insurance policies, reputation, legacy. All of these good, all of these useful in their order. But notice, the fear remains. Why? Because while we are busy arranging effects, we have not changed identity. We are still a person trying to last in time. Dependence has not shifted from the outer picture to the inner cause. In proportion as we put faith in effects, in that proportion we are under their threat. In proportion as we withdraw faith from effects and abide in the cause, the presence within, in that proportion do effects fall into order and fear loosens its rule. Turn within now, for a moment, just enough to prove this to yourself. Notice if there is a tremor, a thought, an image. And then ask, silently, what is it that is noticing this? Do not answer with words. Let the noticing reveal itself. That which is aware of the fear is not afraid. That which sees the picture is not inside the picture. The wave may rise on the surface, but the depth is untroubled. Fear can arise in the mind, yes, but it cannot abide where you dwell as awareness itself. It has no entrance there. It knocks on the door of thought and finds no resident to answer. This is the meaning of dwelling. To live as that awareness, again and again, until it is less an event and more our natural atmosphere. Then the mind may present its theater, but we do not take a role in its tragedy. The psalm says, under the shadow of the Almighty. Shadow means presence shading us, not distance. It is the immediacy of the One that is our life. Let this be our understanding of the secret place, not a sanctuary built of words, but living being. And as we take up the practice of returning to it, which we shall in our next work, remember, safety is not in the person defended by thoughts. Safety is the nature of I am, in which the person appears and disappears as a day's cloud, leaving the sky itself unchanged. Let us now press this to its point, not as an idea, but as inquiry. Before your name was spoken over a cradle, what were you? Before any photograph was taken, before a birthday candle was lit and counted, what are you? Before the first praise and before the first blame, before the first wound and before the first pride, what are you? Do not answer with a sentence. Let the question open the door inward. That which notices the memory parade, that which hears the clock, that which is aware of the breath going and coming. What is that? Not a thought, for it knows thoughts. Not a body, for it is present when the body sleeps. It is the simple, living fact of being. I am. Please let us be clear about this. I am is not a superior person. It is not the frightened, self-polished with scriptures and fortified with noble phrases. I am is the ground of being, in which persons appear and disappear, as waves rise and fall upon an ocean that is never increased or diminished. The body is a condition. I am is life. The body is a form. I am is the formless presence that knows form. The person is a chapter. I am is the page on which chapters are written and erased without the page being harmed. In proportion as we take ourselves to be the chapter, in that proportion we dread the end. In proportion as we discover ourselves as the page, in that proportion the fear of endings cannot find us. At this word, some will ask, if I am not the person, will I become cold or detached? Will love fade? No, that is a mistake born of thinking that only the person can love. The truth is just the reverse. In the measure that we abide as I am, love loses its clutching, its bargaining, its fear. Love becomes less possessive and more present, less a demand and more a giving, less a plea for continuity and more the free outpouring of the life that is our nature. The personal self loves to own. The I am is love being itself. And so relationships do not wither under this realization. They breathe. They cease to be prisons of mine and become fellowships in which we are not threatened by change, because being is not threatened by seasons. Now here is the surrender that makes this practical and safe. I can of my own self do nothing. The personal self cannot manufacture immortality. It cannot extend its days by right thinking, nor cement its story by effort. That is not salvation. The person yields to what is, to the living I am, and in that yielding finds that life lives itself. Death threatens the body person. It does not touch the I am that knows the body person. The biography can be interrupted. Being cannot. Please let us be clear about that. Our task is not to rescue the character in the play, but to awaken as the light by which the play is seen. In proportion as this awakening stabilizes, outward affairs take their cue. Fear loses its subject, and the secret place ceases to be a hiding spot and becomes our home. Now let us make this plain and practicable. In our work, before we have a lecture, before we have a class, before we undertake any healing or attempt to mend the outer scene, we have a period of meditation. Please let us be clear about that. Meditation is the real secret behind all of the work that we do. Because anything in the external world is an effect, and the cause, the presence and the power of cause, is within you. Unless we can become silent enough, still enough, to touch that realm within our own being, closer than breathing, nearer than hands and feet, our best ideas remain ideas. Reading about God is far from experiencing God. Hearing about life is far from being life. What then is this meditation? Not in the nature of mental work, not affirmations or denials or prayers to change conditions. It is a turning within with an attitude of expectancy, a listening, a receptivity to the Word of God, the impartation that does not come from your thought but rises within you of its own authority. All power is in the Word, and the Word is within you. Not your right thinking. That is not salvation. The moment you begin to fashion sentences to protect the person, you have missed the door. Our meditation is the surrender of the person. I can of my own self do nothing, and the quiet waiting by which the Father within doeth the works. Take this as instruction, simple and repeatable. 2 or 3 minutes only. Do not make a project of it. Sit, let the body be at ease, close the eyes if you like, and turn, how shall I say it? Turn attention backward upon its source. No wrestling with fear, no building pictures of eternity, no arguing with death. Let thought do what it will for a moment, and then listen underneath thought for the stillness that is already there. Listen as if a word might come, or as if no word is needed and presence alone is enough. Morning, noon, and night. And again in those moments when the mind rushes. 2 or 3 minutes, repeated 3 and 4 and 5 times a day, will change more than 30 minutes of strain once a week. In proportion as you return, in that proportion does identity relocate from the person to I am. Guard yourself against misapplication. Do not try to make yourself fearless. That is the person trying to save the person. Do not deny what the senses report. Do not paste truths over tremors. Yield them. Let them float in the larger quiet that is your being. Your part is availability. God's part is impartation. Your part is listening. God's part is the Word. Now we shall take this very method to the fear of death itself, not to conquer it as a foe, but to rest where it cannot find us, and watch how, in the silence, the threat loses its subject and the heart learns to dwell. Let us do this together now, simply, quietly, without strain. Sit as you are. Let the hands rest. Let the shoulders fall an inch. Unclench the jaw. If it is comfortable, close the eyes. If not, lower the gaze. We are not going anywhere. We are letting the surface still enough, silent enough, to catch the still, small voice. Please let us be clear. You do not make the silence. You allow what already is to be noticed. Let thought do what it will for a few moments. A thread of planning may pass, a scrap of memory, a concern. Do not argue. Do not improve. Notice that these are movements appearing to you. And now, gently, ask within, what is it that is aware of this movement? Do not answer. Let awareness reveal itself as the quiet background, closer than breathing, nearer than hands and feet. Rest as that noticing. Now, invite the fear to appear. Yes, invite it. If there is death fear here, let it show itself. Grant it full permission to parade its images, the tilted calendar, the empty chair, the stopped clock. See how it leans on pictures of a future. See how it whispers a private pronoun. My time, my story, my continuation. Just notice. And now, again, ask silently, what is it that knows these pictures? Not a person looking at them, but the seeing itself. The pictures need a someone to threaten. The seeing does not provide one. Very softly, like a key turning a latch, offer a single inward phrase, not as a chant, not as a shield, but as a doorway. I am. Speak it within once, perhaps twice, then stop. Listen. Wait. Expect. Elijah did not find the holy in wind or quake or fire, but after, stillness. Let there be that after. No searching for sensations, no testing the air, only a readiness. I can of my own self do nothing. Father, it is your turn. Remain a few breaths as the witnessing, not the pictured one. Notice the simple fact. In the instant of pure being, before thought picks up the thread of me and mine, fear has no footing. Not conquered, absent. Not argued down, without a subject to inhabit. I am does not wait for a future. It is. It is the page on which futures are imagined and erased without the page being harmed. If there is no great wave of peace, do not be disturbed. This turning is never wasted. The benefit begins the moment you start. Even now, something in you has learned its way home a little better. 2 or 3 minutes of this, morning, noon, and night, returning to I am, letting the fear show itself, listening beyond it, will do more than hours of managing thought. In proportion as you rest as I am, in that proportion, death fear loses its subject, and the government of the Father within, quietly, faithfully, doeth the works. Now let us see what, in our language, we call the word, because this is the hinge on which protection swings. The word, as we use it, is not the statement that goes out of your mouth. It is the impartation that rises within you, an inner birth of truth that feels like authority without argument, presence without effort. All power is in the Word, and the Word is within you. Not your right thinking. That is not salvation. When the Word is given within, you are not persuaded. You are established. My peace I give unto you, not as the world gives, not as a sentence offered to a frightened mind, but as a life awakened in your very consciousness. Please let us be clear about that. The mind may continue to present images of endings, the hospital corridor, the empty room, the last breath. But the heart, under impartation, carries a different knowing. Life is not personal and cannot be extinguished. The picture may flash, but it does not govern. Fear may knock, but there is no tenant to answer. This is why a single inner impartation can do what 1,000 mental reassurances cannot. The reassurances try to protect the person. Impartation reveals the I that needs no protection. Remember our law of cause and effect. Anything in the external world is an effect. Health and aging, safety and danger, gain and loss. The cause, the presence and power of cause, is within you. In proportion as the word registers in consciousness, in that proportion do effects either reshape or lose their tyranny. He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. Shadow means nearness, not distance. Under that nearness, protection is not a fence you build. It is a presence you embody. It does not make you brave by effort. It removes the need of bravery, because fear has lost its subject. Now do not turn this into promise of spectacle. We are not guaranteeing that the body will never change, that time will cease to pass, that no leaf will ever fall. That is not the promise. The promise is the end of bondage to change. The biography may shift. Being does not. Self-defense gives way to realization. I can of my own self do nothing. The Father within me doeth the works. Under that government, even the changes of the body are met without panic. Action is taken without the trembling of a threatened self. And then, daily living must take its cue from this. Otherwise, habit reinstalls humanhood by noon. In the 15th chapter of John, abide in me, and I in you. Abide means dwell. Dwell means live. Morning, noon, night, we return 2 or 3 minutes to the listening, not to seek effects, but to let the word be cause. Let that impartation do its quiet arranging. Safety, security, peace, while you move through your hours unhurried, unafraid, unbound. In proportion as you consent to dwell, in that proportion the word within becomes your protection, and life begins to organize itself around fearless being. Freedom from the fear of death is not a comfort to be laid away for later. It is liberty for living now. Please let us be clear about that. When the belief that life is personal loosens, we stop bargaining with life. We cease to say, if I do everything right, may I be spared, or if I hold tightly enough, may I keep. The negotiator retires. We meet life directly, as it appears, without adding the tremor of a threatened self. In proportion as we abide as I am, in that proportion, the hours are not a battlefield, and circumstances lose their power to command our worship. Consider love. When I am a person trying to extend my days by means of companionship, I will cling, I will manage, I will fear loss as if loss could end me. But when I am is our dwelling, love changes in its very nature. It is no longer a transaction for security. It is the free outflow of being. Possessiveness loosens because we are not using another to protect a biography. Control softens because we are not leaning on tomorrow for proof that we are. Then, tenderness gains courage. Honesty gains gentleness. Presence gains patience. We find ourselves blessing rather than binding. We can let others be because our being is not at stake. In proportion as we abide, in that proportion, love becomes less of a grip and more of a giving. Now look at work. Under the government of humanhood, work is often a defense. Legacy as insurance. Achievement as armor against the rumor of non-existence. Deadlines whip us. Comparisons drive us. And the clock tyrannizes. But when time is seen as an appearance within I am, the lash is removed. We are not striving to carve our names in stone. We are allowing expression to take form and pass, while being remains. Service supplants self-justification. Creativity rises, not because we force it, but because the inner quiet leaves room for it. Projects simplify. The unnecessary falls away. The necessary receives our whole heart without panic. I can of my own self do nothing. The Father within me doeth the works, becomes the atmosphere of our labor. And in proportion as we listen before we act, in that proportion the right doors open, and the wrong battles never begin. Decision-making likewise leans differently. Instead of hurried yeses and defensive nos, there is a pause, 2 or 3 minutes of listening, by which the next step is revealed. We are guided from within rather than driven by headlines or by the parade of other people's urgencies. The calendar, we find, is a servant. Time is organized around life, not life around time. When a matter presses, we return to the secret place. We let the word, not opinion, not fear, decide our pace. And then movement is simple. We take the step that is ours and leave the rest to the cause within. This is not indifference. It is obedience. Now let us be very honest and very kind with ourselves. The personal sense will try to reclaim the throne. The habit of ages does not retire because we have seen a bright truth. Please let us be clear about that. After a beautiful meditation, after an hour of real rest in I am, a headline may flash, a twinge may shoot through the body, a call may bring news of someone's passing, and, quietly, expertly, the old regime sets up its banners again. Do not be disturbed by that. Relapse is not failure. It is the signal to return home. How will you recognize that the person is back in government? Watch the little symptoms. Compulsive planning begins. Lists upon lists, contingency upon contingency. Frantic health checking, scanning for signs that prove a future. The mind starts bargaining. Guarantee me tomorrow, and I will be calm today. Irritability quickens because everything becomes a threat to your timetable. A hunger for outer authority rises. You reach for books, experts, articles, forecasts, as if the external word could settle the inward tremor. And yes, there is grasping at spiritual phrases, pasting a noble sentence over a frightened me. In proportion as you sense these, in that proportion, know that the old king has sat down again. Not to scold, only to see. Seeing is grace. What then shall we do immediately? Stop. Wherever you are, stop. 2 minutes will do. Let the body be at ease. Let the breath be as it is. Turn within. Not to think, not to fix. To listen. Whisper within, once and without strain, I can of my own self do nothing. The Father within me doeth the works. Then be still. Expect nothing sensational. Expect presence. Let the fear parade if it wishes. Do not join the parade. Ask gently, what is it that is aware of these movements? Rest as that awareness. If a word rises from within, a simple I am, a line of scripture, receive it and then continue in the quiet. 2 minutes. Then go on with your day. In proportion as you take this immediate return, in that proportion the government shifts back to I am, and the person's noise subsides. Now a few do nots, for they will save you from much wandering. Do not dramatize the fear. Do not make a theater of it and sell tickets to your thoughts. Do not consult endless outer authorities to settle an inner unease. That is dependence on effects, and it breeds more effects to fear. Do not try to conquer fear with willpower. That is the person fighting the person. Do not paste affirmations over tremors as if they were paint over rust. That is not salvation. Do not bargain with God for guarantees. The word within is not a contract. It is life. Make relapse your bell. Each time the person reappears, let it ring you back to the secret place. All power is in the word, and the word is within you. Not your right thinking. The remedy is not control. It is re-abiding within. In our closing work, we shall set a simple rule of life, a 7-day experiment by which you may prove this for yourself, morning, noon, and night, and at every bell, to live as the one who cannot die, and to let life reorganize itself around fearless being. Let us now set before ourselves a small, definite experiment. 7 days, not to improve a person, but to abide as I am and watch life take its cues from cause. Please let us be clear about that. We are not seeking effects. We are consenting to dwell. Before you speak to the world, speak within. Morning, before you touch a device or a task, sit 2 or 3 minutes. Midday, stop whatever can stop, 2 or 3 minutes. Night, just before sleep, 2 or 3 minutes. And at any hour, the instant fear of loss or death so much as whispers, stop, 2 minutes. That will be our rhythm, morning, noon, night, and at every bell. What do you do in those minutes? Not thinking, not denying, not reaching for protective sentences. Turn within with an attitude of expectancy. Whisper once, without strain, I can of my own self do nothing. The Father within me doeth the works. Then listen. Wait, not for fireworks, but for presence. All power is in the Word, and the Word is within you. Not your right thinking. The Word is an impartation, a quiet certainty that does not come from you and yet appears in you. If no word comes, do not be disturbed. Remain available. The benefit begins the moment you start. Each period has one inquiry, simple, faithful, always fresh. What is aware of this moment? Ask it once. Do not answer with a label. Let the question turn you around to the seeing itself. Rest as that noticing for the remaining breaths. If a single inner name arises, I am, receive it once. Then continue as the awareness that needs no name. That is abiding. That is dwelling under the shadow, closer than breathing, nearer than hands and feet. For these 7 days, keep a small card or page. Not to grade yourself, to witness cause and effect. Each night, note in a line or two, how was sleep? Was urgency thinner? Did reactivity shorten? Did love feel less grasping, more present? Was work steadier, decisions simpler, the clock kinder? In proportion as you truly dwelt, in that proportion these effects will show themselves, not always as spectacle, but unmistakably as ease, as right timing, as a tenderness that needs no possession. If fear visited, did you remember the bell? Did returning take the heat out of the picture? These are not prizes. They are traces that you have lived from cause. At the close of the 7th day, do not rush to conclusions. Sit the final night 2 or 3 minutes and ask nothing but this: what am I, if not a person to be preserved? Wait. Listen. Let the word, if it will, say itself. And then know this: the spiritually illumined do not conquer death. They awaken from the belief that life is personal. The biography may shift. Being does not. To abide as I am is to stand where fear cannot find its subject, and, in that standing, life quietly reorganizes itself around fearless being. Extend the 7 days if you like, or rather, let the 7 days extend you, morning, noon, night, and at every bell, until dwelling is less an exercise and more your address. Abide in me, and I in you. Dwelleth means to live. Live there, and the Father within you doeth the works.